So let us start another chapter under the cardiovascular system. The drug used for the treatment of arrhythmia, and therefore it is called anti-arrhythmic drug. And this is coming under the theory part of the veterinary pharmacology. So let us start the anti-arrhythmic drug. If you go through the ECG, that is the electrocardiogram, you will get the graph like this. And this whole graph is indicating the contraction of the ventricle. This is the action potential and representing this in form of ECG. So the action potential generated in cardiac myocyte, particularly the ventricle or ventricular myocyte, it is represented in form of the ECG. The difference between only these two is that the ECG is representing whole ventricular cells, whereas this is the only one action potential. If you go through the cardiac combustion system, how this will produce and what are the part participating in cardiac combustion system, and because of that the heart is beating. In that, the electric current is generated by the pacemaker of the heart, and the pacemaker of the heart which generated the electric current in the heart to carry out the impulses are SA node, AV node, bundle of his, bundle branches, Purkinje fiber. So from the SA node, the current will propagate downward, and this SA node give the P wave, which is represented in the electrocardiogram, in which the blood is moving from atrium to the ventricle, which is indicating the P wave, whereas the bundle of his bundle branches both are indicating the Q wave, whereas the Purkinje fiber is participating in the generation of RS wave. So this whole wave under the ECG are P, Q, R, S, T, and the last one is the U, but mainly the P, Q, R, S, T. P is indicating filling of the ventricle indicated by the P, whereas the Q wave is indicating that is the bundle of his and the bundle branches, whereas the RS is indicating by the current through passing through the Purkinje fiber. So what is the meaning of the RS wave? In RS wave is representing the blood is moving out or electric current through which blood is pushing from the ventricle, both from the right ventricle and the left ventricle. So from the right ventricle, the blood is pushing to the lungs, and from the left ventricle, blood is pushing to the rest of the body, is indicated by RS wave. So this is all about the RS wave. Whereas T is indicating the ventricle is in a recovery phase, and which is indicated by the phase 3. There are two type of cells are separated in heart. One is called cardiac myocyte that we already mentioned, and another one is the cardiac pacemaker. So the cardiac pacemaker is representing the passing out the electric current in form of impulses, which is responsible to beat the heart. So in the both the cases, either in the cardiac myocyte or pacemaker cell, the action potential is generated. So in both the cases, the action potential are different that we are going to discuss. The SA node, we call it the natural pacemaker, whereas AV node, bundle of his, Purkinje fiber, they all are called latent pacemaker. And as we mentioned that the action potential is generated in heart is two type, and in two because of the action potential is generated in two type of the heart cell. One is the pacemaker cell, and the action potential is called pacemaker cell action potential. And in the cardiac myocyte, the action potential we call it the cardiac muscle cell action potential, and we represent this mainly in the ventricle. So the action potential in the ventricle, particularly of the concern to the cardiac muscle cell, a cardiac myocyte, is totally different in the action potential generated in the pacemaker cell that we already discussed. So let us start the action potential of pacemaker cell. So in this there is depolarization as well as the repolarization occur. And why this depolarization and repolarization or action potential is generated? Because it is indicating cells are is in functioning, and this is which is represented in the form of the action potential. Here the action potential of pacemaker cell is possessing the phases which are indicated by 403. I mean pacemaker action potential is include phase 4, phase 0, phase 3, whereas in pacemaker cell the phase 1 and phase 2 are missing. So this is very, very interesting and also a differential point with the action potential of the cardiac muscle cell. Because in the cardiac muscle cell, all the phases are there. I mean 4 is also there, 0 is also there, 1 is also there, 2 is also there, 3 is also there, and in case of pacemaker cell, only the phases are 4, 0 and 3, which indicating whole depolarization and repolarization of the cell, pacemaker cell. Now we have to go through the action potential of pacemaker cell. So when first we have to consider the depolarization of the pacemaker cell, and thereafter we are going to think the repolarization of pacemaker cell. Why this is required? Because on the basis of mechanism of action of the depolarization and repolarization and participation of the ion, accordingly we are closing or drug is going to act on these pathway. So therefore the depolarization and repolarization of both pacemaker cell as well as the cardiac myocyte is important because drugs are participating only in these places. So now we have to go through the depolarization of the pacemaker cell. So as we already discussed, the depolarization of pacemaker cell having the phases, only three type of phases: phase 4, phase 0, phase 3. So this is the SA node here. This is representing the SA node pacemaker. So first we have to go through the depolarization. So electric activity in the pacemaker cell, which may be SA node, AB node, or that we already discussed, and this depolarization electrical activity is associated with the movement of ion like sodium ion, potassium ion, and calcium ion. So when the cardiac cell get stimulated by electric impulses, that is in the SA node, membrane permeability get changed because of the electric impulses in the cardiac cell of the pacemaker, like SA node, AB node, Purkinje fiber, bundle of his, that we already discussed, and accordingly the movement of ion get changed. So when there is electric impulse stimulate the cardiac cell, the membrane permeability get changed, and accordingly ion movement get started. So when the action potential is generating in the pacemaker cell because of the electrical impulse stimulation, the membrane permeability gets changed, and when we have to see the SA node action potential, the starting point when the membrane permeability get changed because of the electrical impulse, the it open the sodium channel. So when the sodium get entry inside the cell, then which type of sodium channel? The sodium channel is slow sodium channel through which the sodium is entering inside the cell, and therefore when the sodium get started entering in the cell of the pacemaker cell, then the membrane potential at that time was minus 60 millivolt, and when the sodium started entering inside the cell through the slow sodium channel, the minus millivolt from 60 to move to the minus 40. Simultaneously, not only entry of the sodium ion within the pacemaker cell, also it open another type of voltage gated calcium channel, the T type of calcium channel get open, and therefore calcium get entry along with the sodium. So this phase is called number phase 4. So in number 4 phase, what is happening? The entry of the sodium occur through the slow sodium channel, and at initiation point the membrane potential was minus 60 millivolt, and it moving towards the minus 40, not only with the entry of the sodium ion, but also the calcium channel get open, that is the voltage gated calcium channel type T, and therefore it give rise to slow depolarization of the slow depolarization, which is referred as 4 phase. So number 4 phase, both the sodium as well as the calcium is entry calcium started entry, and in which the potential membrane potential reach up to 40. So up to minus 60 to minus 40, entry of sodium ion as well as the entry of calcium channel occur through T type of the calcium channel, and once it reached to minus 40, now another calcium channel get open, that is the L type of calcium channel at minus 40 millivolt. So at minus 40 millivolt, L type calcium channel open, and there is a rapid entry of the calcium occur through the calcium channel into the cell, and therefore it give rise to the potential from minus 40 millivolt to plus 10 millivolt, which is referred as a phase 0, and this is also called the depolarization, rapid depolarization. So this is the starting point of pacemaker action potential at 4, where the depolarization was the slow depolarization. So depolarization started from the phase 4 with entry of the sodium through the slow sodium channel, whereas when it reaches at minus 40, the L type calcium channel get open, and with entry of calcium it give rise to the fast depolarization, and the phase is called zero phase. So here is the phase number 4, here is the phase number 0, and once the action potential reach up to plus 10 millivolt, then the phase at this phase, when the potential get reached 10 millivolt, the calcium channel, the particularly the L type calcium channel, is get closed. So get closed, and potassium channel, voltage gated potassium channel get open, rather it open from early stage, and therefore potassium ion is moving outward from inside to outside. So potassium is moving outside, so outward movement of the potassium occur, and therefore it give rise the repolarization of the cell, and repolarization of the cell is because of the efflux of the escape of the potassium ion from the cell, and therefore which give rise the potential from 10 millivolt to it give rise to 10 millivolt to up to the minus 60 millivolt, and therefore this phase is called phase 3, which is the phase of repolarization, where again the potential come to the starting point minus 10 minus 60 millivolt, and therefore again the phase is continuous like 403 403. So this is all about the action potential of the pacemaker cell, which include the phases 4, 0 and 3. So these three, and participation of the sodium channel, calcium channel, as well as the potassium channel, in which the calcium channel participation of both T as well as L type of calcium channel occur. Now we have to go through the another, then why we are going to discuss these thing? Because we are going to use the drug that are used to treat the arrhythmia. They are acting on the pathway of this pacemaker action potential, means ki they are acting on the ion channel. So this is all about the action potential of pacemaker. Now we have to go through the cardiac muscle cell action potential, particularly the ventricle. So we may say the ventricular action potential also. So there is very much difference with the potential of the pacemaker cell. In cardiac myocyte cell, the resting potential is existing, and resting potential in case of the cardiac myocyte is minus 90 millivolt, and the phase is called phase 4. So the resting potential of the cardiac myocyte is maintained at 90 millivolt by efflux by if escape of potassium ion or outflow of potassium ion through potassium channel KIR. What is this? KIR. KIR stand for inward rectifier potassium channel. Through this channel, there is constant outflow of potassium ion occurring from the cardiac myocyte and which give the resting membrane potential of minus 90 millivolt, and this phase is called number 4 phase in case of the cardiac muscle cell. So when the action potential is triggered in the neighboring cell, then there is opening of sodium channel, that is the voltage gated sodium channel similar to the pacemaker. So voltage gated cells sodium channel here is the fast voltage gated sodium channel, and when the neighboring selection potential get generated, it open the voltage gated sodium channel, and therefore sodium get entered inside the cardiac myocyte, and therefore it gives rise the rapid depolarization, and therefore the potential of the cardiac myocyte change from minus 90 millivolt to plus 40 millivolt, and this phase is called phase 0. So this phase 0 is the phase 0 is in the cardiac myocyte. So this is the phase 0. This is the phase 0, and this is the resting potential phase 4. So in resting potential phase 4, the move this is maintained by the outflow of potassium ion through the potassium channel KIR. So this is here number 4, which is maintaining the membrane potential minus 90 millivolt. So once the cell get activated, neighboring cell, therefore the sodium channel get open, and entry of the say sodium channel within the cardiac myocyte give rise the action potential, and therefore membrane potential minus 90 change to plus 40 millivolt, and this is called depolarization phase, or you can say the phase 0. So phase 0 is depolarization phase. So once the cell at the depolarization at the 40 millivolt plus 40 millivolt, what will happen at 40 millivolt? The sodium channel now get inactivated, and as well as at this 40 millivolt plus 40 millivolt, the voltage gated potassium channel get open. So voltage gated potassium channel get open, and therefore again this potassium ion is escape out. So when the potassium ion escape out from the cardiac myocyte, when the membrane potential was plus 40 millivolt, now it give rise the membrane potential going down, which phase is called phase 1. So at phase 1, there is inactivation of the sodium channel, and there is opening of voltage gated potassium channel, and therefore there is a small dip in the membrane potential, and therefore this is called phase 1. And here now, as I told, when it reached to the plus 40 millivolt, the sodium channel get inactivated at this point, and thereafter the potassium channel get open, the voltage gated potassium channel, and potassium is escaping out from the cell, and therefore it give rise to a small dip of the membrane potential, and therefore this is the phase 1. So here is the phase 1. So see here, potassium is moving out in phase 4, sodium is coming inside in depolarization state. In again the phase 1 the slight dip in the membrane potential from 40 millivolt to lower down, and that is because of the escape out of the potassium through the voltage gated potassium channel, which gives the phase 4. So this is up to this is the phase 4, and simultaneously here again the phase 2 come, and this phase 2 is because of the opening of the another voltage gated calcium channel, that is the L type calcium channel. So when the phase 1 complete, about nearby completion of the phase 1, there is a opening of the L-type calcium channel. Rather, you can say the L-type calcium channel is starting opening from the phase 0, rather phase 0. So after finishing this potassium escape out, after completion of the phase 1, potassium channel is still open and moving out, but simultaneously the calcium channel get open, the L type calcium channel, and calcium is moving inside, started moving inside. By simultaneously potassium ion is also escaping out, which give rise the ionic balance. So electrically balanced ion exchange occur, and therefore there is no further dip of the more dip in the membrane potential, and this give a rather a flat type of membrane potential, which we call the plateau. So a plateau is formed in the phase 2, and in the phase 2 there is the movement of calcium channel inside and escape of potassium channel outside, and which give rise to electrical balance exchange of the ion like calcium and potassium occurring, and which is give rise a membrane potential plateau, which is called the phase 2. So now the phase 2 completed. At the last phase, that is the repolarization phase, we call it the rapid repolarization phase, and rapid repolarization phase is because of the inactivation of the calcium type L type calcium channel. So L type calcium channel get inactivated, so there is no inflow of the calcium ion, only the potassium ion is outflowing, escaping out the potassium ion, and therefore from this phase 2, because of the stopping, because of the inactivation of the L type calcium channel, the membrane potential get started moving back towards the phase 4, and therefore the phase is called rapid repolarization phase, and also called phase 3, when the membrane potential is moving down from the membrane potential plateau up to the minus 90 millivolt, and this is called the rapid repolarization phase 3, and thereafter the membrane potential is maintained minus 90 millivolt, that is called the phase 4 resting membrane potential. So this is all about the action potential of the pacemaker as well as the action potential of the cardiac myocyte, and the drug that we are going to use as an anti-arrhythmic drug that are acting only on these two action potential of the two two phases, that is the pacemaker as well as the cardiac myocyte. Now we have to go through the drug that are used to treat the arrhythmia, to treat the dysarrhythmia. So we are going to discuss the drug used to treat the arrhythmia. So first we have to go through the definition. So what is the meaning of antiarrhythmic drug? Antiarrhythmic drug are the drug that we are going to use to treat the arrhythmic condition of the heart is called antiarrhythmic drug. Antiarrhythmic drug we are going to discuss in detail, but the word arrhythmia is derived from a Greek word, two Greek word, a means loss and rhythmos means the loss of rhythm. So when the heart is not in rhythm or loss of heart rhythm is called arrhythmia, and the drug that used to keep the heart in rhythm and remove the arrhythmic condition is called anti-arrhythmic drug. Now we have to go through the uh, uh, heart that are in rhythm beating 60 to 100 beat per minute. So when the heartbeat is above 60 to 100 beat per minute, going to produce the arrhythmia, we call it the bradyarrhythmia. And when this heart is more than 100 beat per minute, this is called tachyarrhythmia. And if this is less than 60 beat per minute, this is called bradyarrhythmia. If more than 100 beat per minute, it is called tachyarrhythmia. So here we are going to define two more words. What is action potential? Action potential is simply the beginning of depolarization, or you can say the beginning of phase 0 and ending of the repolarization, that is the phase 3, is called action potential, and in form of the ECG we are representing it the QT interval. So from this Q to T, from this Q, that is a Q, that is the beginning of the depolarization, and this is the finishing of the ending of the repolarization, is called the action potential, or you can say the QT, or we have to call it the QT interval or action potential. And another word is the effective refractory period. So this is also the period, this is also the time which also include the same depolarization 0 phase, but later phase, then the 1 2 3. So this also include, but this effective refractory period is indicating the starting of initiation of new action potential. So this from this point to this point is called ERP, effective refractory period, and from this point to this point is called action potential. And this is the 4 phase, this is the 0 phase, this is the this is up to this is the 1 phase, here to here is the 1 phase, here to here play 2 is the 2 phase, and here is the 3 phase, and this is the 4 phase in case of cardiac pacemaker, and this is the 0, and this is the 3, and this is the 4 for the pacemaker. So this is the summation of both pacemaker and the cardiac myocyte action potential. So we already discussed about this in detail. Now we have to, and we also discuss about the action potential, we also discuss about the ERP. Now we have to discuss about the classification of antiarrhythmic drug, or the drug used for the treatment of arrhythmia. So anti-dysrhythmic drug. And this is first time this is classified by the Vaughan-Willian. So the classification by the Vaughan-Willian, and this classified in the year 1970 based upon the electrophysiological effect. So now there are four type of classification of the drug used for the treatment of arrhythmia. So anti-arrhythmic drugs are divided into four classes. So number one, number two, number three, number four class. Number one, class one is sodium channel blocker. Number two class anti-arrhythmic drug is number two is beta blocker. Number class 2 antiarrhythmic drug is beta blocker. Number 3 class is the potassium channel blocker, and number 4 class is the calcium channel blocker. So we have to discuss one by one in detail. So here I am going to first start with the sodium channel blocker, that is the class 1 antiarrhythmic drug. So what is important about this class 1 antiarrhythmic drug? This again class 1 antiarrhythmic drug divided into subclasses 1A, 1B, 1C, and these are the subclasses, and this based upon the action potential. Classification is based upon the action potential. Drug that so all the drug under the class 1 anti-arrhythmic drug is having the same mechanism of action. They are sodium channel blocker. So where they are going to blocker? The action potential, that is the depolarization or the zero phase blocker that we have seen here. So they are going to block the this zero phase. So this one is the phase zero is blocked by, that is the ventricular action potential. Zero phase, that is the depolarization phase, that is of the entry of the sodium ion, is blocked by the sodium channel blocker and divided into three types: 1A, 1B, 1C. So they all are the sodium channel blocker, but there is some difference, and because of that they are divided into subtype A, B, C. One, we have to discuss one by one. So they block, in the nutshell, the sodium channel blocker or class 1 antiarrhythmic drug block the sodium channel, which is either in open or an inactivated state. Also decreases the rate of rise of depolarization, that is the phase 0 depolarization, and also slow down the conduction velocity. Why? How we have to explain? When you are blocking this sodium channel, when you are blocking the sodium channel, so what is happening? This is the 4 phase. There is a rapid entry of the sodium, which is giving minus 90 millivolt to plus 40 millivolt because of the entry of the sodium channel. So when you are blocking this pathway, so blocking of this pathway is going to give the depolarization state or the phase 0 state. Rate of depolarization get decreases. Means ki now when you are going to plot the graph after using the drug, you are getting the depolarization, delayed depolarization. So rate of the depolarization get decreased because of the blocking of the sodium channel, and therefore it also reduces the conduction velocity of the sodium channel. Now simultaneously they are also going to influence the action potential duration. So action potential duration get increased, or you can say the QT interval get prolonged. That we have to go through structurally and see how this will happen. So first we have to go through the class 1A antiarrhythmic drug. So class A antiarrhythmic drug, which include the drug like quinidine, procainamide, disopyramide. So these all are the drug belongs to the 1A antiarrhythmic drug, quinidine, procainamide and disopyramide. They all blocking the phase 0 depolarization because of the entry of the sodium channel. So it block the entry of the sodium channel, and because it is blocking the entry of the fast sodium channel, I mean the entry of the sodium ion, therefore it delaying the delaying the depolarization. So when there is delaying in the depolarization occur, so this is here is the time phase and here is the volt millivolt. So when this depolarization is delayed because of the sodium channel blocking, the rate of depolarization get slowed, and you will get now the resultant the depolarization comes here. And this 1A drug not only blocking the sodium channel, but it also prolong the repolarization by blocking the some potassium channel. So the 1A drug is very very interesting because the drug is not only blocking the rapid depolarization, so it slow down the repolarization. So now the resultant, you will get the graph here. So slow down the depolarization because of the blocking of the phase 0, because of the entry or slow down of the entry of the sodium channel, the rate of depolarization get decreased, and now you will get that graph here. As well as this is also going to prolong repolarization. So when this is so the initially this phase was like this, the phase was in like this, repolarization phase like this. So when the repolarization get prolonged, why this repolarization get prolonged? Because it also inhibited the escape out the potassium ion from the potassium channel. Therefore it give rise to prolongation of the repolarization. So therefore, from this to this is called action potential of the initial one, but after giving the drug, the action potential now get change, means ki action potential get increase. So when the action potential get increase, so this phase is the QT interval, so QT interval get increase. So drug 1A is prolonging the action potential because initially the action potential are here. Now the action potential change up to here because of the delaying in the depolarization or closing of the sodium channel, or also prolonging the repolarization because of the blocking of the potassium channel. Therefore it increases the action potential. So this drug, quinidine, procainamide, disopyramide are 1A drug blocking the phase 0. In addition, also blocking the potassium channel. Therefore, it prolongs the action potential as well as it prolongs the ERP, that is the effective refractory period. So this is here is the effective refractory period. Now, where we have to use this drug? We have to use in arrhythmia like ventricular tachycardia, like recurrent atrial fibrillation. What are the side effects with the drug, particularly quinidine? Like headache and tinnitus, that is the problem in the ear. The side effect of the disopyramide, they have the in addition activity on cholinergic effect. So this is all about the 1A. Now we have to go through the drug under the class 1B. So similarly, they are also blocking the sodium channel, or you can do the depolarization, phase 2 depolarization. But the 1B is rather, it is blocking the phase 0 slowly. So weak blocker of phase 0 depolarization. So it give rise the minimal effect on the fast sodium channel, and therefore the depolarization, that the depolarization that because of the sodium channel entry occur, this is also one be slow down the rate of depolarization, but slower than the 1A. So now as a resultant, the depolarization gets slowed down, and you as a resultant you get the newer place of this one is here, and this is the actual action potential. So when we are talking about the 1B, they are the weak phase 0 depolarization, minimal blocker of the fast sodium channel, but similar, just in contrary to the 1A, they are rather shorten the repolarization. They are rather shorten the repolarization, so repolarization gets shortened. But in case of the repolarization of 1A, the repolarization state is delayed, prolonged. But here in 1B case, the repolarization get shortened. Repolarization phase get shortened. So therefore, now the action, earlier action potential was here, now the action potential is now here. So now the action potential and QT interval and also the ERP, all the three get decreases when we are going to use the drug under 1B antiarrhythmic drug like lidocaine and maxillatine. So lidocaine and maxillatine are class 1B drug. They are also sodium channel blocker but weaker in nature, and in addition to that they are also shortening the repolarization phase shortening, and they, because of that, the action potential as well as the effective refractory period gets shortened, and the drug is used for the ventricular arrhythmia. Regarding toxicity of lidocaine is concerned, which produces seizures because of CNS toxicity, and maxillatine is going to produce the side effect like vomition and nausea. Now we have to go through the drug under the 1C, class 1C antiarrhythmic drug. Under this, the drug are flecainide and propafenone. These two drugs are coming under the 1C. So similar to the class 1 and class B, 1B, they are also the sodium channel blocker. The 1C is even sodium channel blocker but faster than the 1A. So 1C is powerful fast sodium channel blocker, so therefore it inhibit the phase 0 depolarization, and it prolong the phase 0 0 depolarization, because the depolarization because the sodium ion entry get inhibited. So now you get the graph like this. So it will take the long time to give rise the depolarization effect, and therefore it prolong the phase 0 depolarization, and as well as it also inhibit the His-Purkinje conduction, and it do not have or even limited effect on the repolarization, whereas 1A, 1B both are having the effect on the repolarization. 1A is prolonging the repolarization phase by blocking the potassium channel, whereas in case of 1B there is shortening of the phase, repolarization phase. So that we have seen. Now 1C is having no effect or rather limited effect on repolarization, and its effect is mainly because of its effect on powerful effect on the fast sodium channel blocker. So sodium channel entry get delayed and it prolonged the depolarization phase, and now we have to get the graph like this. And therefore, so this is the initial graph, and finally this you will get the graph like the same. So there is no change of action potential. In this there is no change of the action potential. So there is no change of action potential in 1C occur, and the drug is used for the refractory ventricular arrhythmia, and the side effect of the drug are nausea, blood vision, and dizziness. The class 1 antiarrhythmic drug is itself causing the arrhythmia. So this is all about the class 1 drug. Now we have to go through the class 2 antiarrhythmic drug, and that is we call the beta blocker. Here the interesting thing is that in case of one class 1 drug, they are acting on the not on the pacemaker, rather it is acting on the action potential, acting on the action potential of the cardiac myocyte. So one class 1 drug is acting on the cardiac myocyte action potential, whereas class 2 drug, antiarrhythmic drug, that is the beta blocker, they are acting on the action potential of pacemaker. That means they are acting on the pacemaker cell like SA node or whatsoever the cell concerned to the pacemaker. So the drug under the class 2 antiarrhythmic drug, they are particularly the beta 1 blocker. So beta 1 blocker, and the drug are propranolol, metoprolol, atenolol, nadolol, esmolol. Esmolol is very good drug because they have to introduce intravenously in emergency case of acute arrhythmia, and also possessing short half-life and fast action. So the beta blocker are very good choice for treating the arrhythmia, and they are actually the preventing the action of catecholamine, I mean the noradrenaline, over the beta 1 receptor, adrenergic receptor. So catecholamine effect on beta 1 adrenergic receptor of the pacemaker cell on the heart is going to be blocked by the beta 1 blocker, and therefore the drug is a beta 1 blocker, and therefore finally it leads to decrease in heart rate and decrease in contractibility through the protein that we already discussed, through the GS protein, by activating the adenyl cyclase, which is going to promote the cyclic MP, which is acting on the protein kinase A on the ryanodine receptor, and therefore intracellular calcium raise, and finally it give rise to decrease, it give rise, because of blocking, it give rise to decrease in heart rate and decrease in contractibility. So beta 1 blocker preventing the action of noradrenaline, adrenaline, or you can say catecholamine to attachment to beta 1 adrenergic receptor, and therefore it blocking the effect, and therefore finally it leads to decrease heart rate, decrease contractility. The third one is class third anti-arrhythmic drug, and class third anti-arrhythmic drug is potassium channel blocker that we already discussed. So potassium channel blocker drugs are amiodarone, dronidarone, sotalol, dofetilide, ibutilide. So they are the regarding dofetilide and ibutilide is concerned, these both are more selective potassium channel blocker, whereas amiodarone, dronidarone somewhat also acting on the other site. So they influence the action potential of the cardiac myocyte. So they are acting on the affecting the cardiac myocyte action potential. So this cardiac myocyte action potential. So here is the depolarization. Here is the 4 phase. Here is the depolarization 0 phase. Here is the 1. Here is the nearby plateau is the 2. And here is the number 3. So this repolarization phase is because of the entry of the because of the potassium ion escape out. So this is going to be blocked down. So when it get blocked down, it get prolong the action of this phase. So there is prolongation of the repolarization phase. So phase 3 is going to give rise the repolarization. So because of the blocking of the potassium channel, there is prolongation of the repolarization phase, and therefore it prolong the action potential, it prolong the QT interval, and it prolong the effective refractory period. So this is very, very important. Now, regarding the use of this drug is concerned, the drug is used for supraventricular, ventricular tachyarrhythmia, as well as atrial fibrillation and flutter. As we already told, amiodarone and dronidarone, particularly amiodarone, not only blocking the potassium channel but also blocking the sodium channel, alpha adrenergic blocking action. So the drug is most, because of this reason drug is most usable, but it's also possessing various side effects and longer half life. So, sotalol is also, in addition to the potassium channel blocking action, it also it also having the action on the beta adrenergic blocking action. So, regarding the dofetilide and ibutilide is concerned, we already discussed this is more selective towards the potassium channel blocker, but it also can generate arrhythmia itself. So this is very, very important. Now the last one under the anti-arrhythmic drug is the class 4, and class 4 anti-arrhythmic drug are calcium channel blocker. So calcium channel blocker is again influencing the action potential of the pacemaker cell. So action potential of pacemaker cell is influenced by the calcium channel blocker, and the drug we used as a blocker are verapamil and diltiazem, and both are the calcium channel blocker, and both are blocking the voltage sensitive calcium channel blocker, particularly of SA and AV node in the heart rate, and therefore slowing down the conductivity. It is slowing down the conductivity and myocardial contractility. Contractility, and the calcium channel blocker should be used for atrial fibrillation, supraventricular tachycardia, and the last one under the drug that are not coming under all the class 1, 2, 3, 4 are the drug that are digoxin, that we already discussed in the cardiac glycoside, its mechanism of action. It's all that are used for the arterial fibrillation and heart failure, and adenosine and magnesium sulfate. Magnesium sulfate is acting on the channel like sodium, potassium, and calcium ion. It influences this movement of this ion, calcium, sodium, and potassium, whereas adenosine is acting on the A1 receptor on the atrium and AV and SA node, and as a resultant, it decreases the conduction velocity and prolong the refractory period, and therefore it is used in supraventricular tachycardia. So this is all about today class.